Hey, Wilson here. Another video before July creeps in. This is the summer of 2025. We're going to do the Mamas and the Papas, one of my favorite folk rock groups. Hope one of yours too. I'm a big Mamas and Papas fan to the extent that I think I like them more than I should. You know, like I love those four 60s albums. I love the John Phillips solo album. I'm gonna discuss the Cass Elliot, her first album too today, and I guess that'll be about it. All right, the Mamas and Papas, their first album came out in 1966. Their first two albums came out in '66. It's called "If You Can Believe Your Eyes and Ears," and I am struggling to get it out of the Ziploc baggie I got it in. Here we go. I'm going to show you the one I like. The one with the cardboard sleeve. This is the original LP cover. My parents had this album growing up and when I was a kid in the 60s and 70s, and they had the one, the toilet was covered by a little, advertisement for one of the songs or something like that. Anyways, this is the mono mix. This was the back of the album. And it is easily my favorite way to listen to it. This is a classic record for 1966 for Los Angeles, for California. John Phillips, of course, was the main songwriter, and he wrote all the good ones, guys. Monday, Monday, that went to number one, right? Straight Shooter, one of the great Mamas and Papas songs, not to be a hit. Lots of drug references in that song too. Heroin, which everyone talks about. Heroin was not a drug of choice for the hippies, and Lou Reed wrote about it. That didn't come out till the first Velvet's album in '67, but it was written in '66. But John Phillips had heroin references in Straight Shooter, which was on a big hit pop album in 1966. They were a subversive band, and if you ever read his autobiography, Papa John, yeah, he was a junkie. And, anyways, I'll get to his personal life in a while. Got a Feeling is another one of their all-time classic songs, which really wasn't a hit. But I heard Straight Shooter and Got a Feeling on the radio when I was a kid. These I heard them to the point that, to me, that they were hits. Danny co-wrote Got a Feeling with John. I Call Your Name is the Beatles number from from '64. I can't remember. Was that on the Hard Day's Night album, or was it just on one of their EPs? Anyways, their arrangement, John's arrangement for I Call Your Name, is nothing like the Beatles version. And folks, I'm going to tell you guys something. I like the Mamas and Papas version better, probably because I heard it first when I was a kid. But what can I tell you? That's like an average Beatles song, but it's a great Mamas and Papas number. And then they always did covers on these records, right? Do You Want to Dance, the Bobby Freeman number from the 50s. They do it their way. It's nice. Go Where You Want to Go is another Mamas and Papas classic, which the Fifth Dimension later had a hit with. Again, I like their version better. And that's the first half. First half of the album is classic. Second half, California Dreamin', their ultimate song. John and Michelle. John gave Michelle credit for, I think, inspiring because she was the only true Californian. These guys came from the East Coast. That's where they got together. You know the story, I'm sure. They went down to the Bahamas on a credit card, and they maxed out the card until there was nothing left. Then they went into a gambling establishment, and they gave Michelle what money they had left, and she put it down on the roulette wheel, I think, and won enough money for them to get back to New York. Whereupon they arrived, it was freezing. Their friends had left, for the East or for the West Coast, and I guess that's where everything was happening. Just check out the song, Creaky Alley. So they got this old car, which barely made it across the country. They arrived in Los Angeles and were successful right away. They were the backing vocalists on, what's that guy who, God, I really should have prepared for this one, shouldn't I? The gravelly-voiced folk singer who had that big hit in 1965, Barry McGuire. Boy, it was going to come to me. And Eve of Destruction, right? So they're the backing vocalists on his first album. He did California Dreamin'. They used that track, the track that he recorded, put in a new flute solo, I think, and, you know, wiped over his vocals and put on their vocals, and boom, there was California Dreamin'. To me, their ultimate song, you know, that's what opens up the side two of If You Can Believe Your Eyes and Ears. Spanish Harlem, it's another pretty good, you know, number, a cover that they did. And then Somebody Groovy, to me, one of John's weaker numbers on the album, but I know people view that as a great song. Hey Girl, same thing. Don't see that as top-notch Phillips. You Baby, which I know that's because it says here, a P.F. Sloan number, but that's the same one that the Turtles covered. And then the In Crowd, which I like their version. So side two, not quite up to the standards of side one, but, you know, not bad either. So there you go. That's a classic album. 1966. They released another album in 1966. Also real good. Also in mono. If you get this cardboard release from Sundazed. It's called The Mamas and the Papas. It's almost as good, folks. Real good. No Salt on Her Tail. That's the one I'm pretty sure that has Ray Manzarek on it, right? Or it sure sounds like him. Now, I've read this online. Totally sounds like that organ that he played. But I've never read that in a Doors book. So if anyone knows, leave it in the comments. Knows for sure and can, you know, like drop a link maybe, because I'm a big Doors nut and I'd like to know if that's Ray. It sounds like it. Trip, Stumble, and Fall is also good. Dancing Bear. Again, John is the main songwriter on these ones, but he did write Trip, Stumble, and Fall with Michelle. Words of Love, one of their big hits, right? My Heart Stood Still is an old Rodgers and Hart number. Dancing in the Street, of course, is the Marvin Gaye co-written, Motown number that everyone and their grandmother covered. I Saw Her Again, which John and Denny wrote about Michelle. Denny was having an affair with Michelle, and they had to all be in the band together. See, they were like Fleetwood Mac, 10 years before Fleetwood Mac. Strange Young Girls is another one that's kind of subversive, about, you know, kind of young hippie girls coming to the canyons, coming to LA. I'm sure it was the same thing in San Francisco. Again, this is 66, before this stuff was really publicized, who would come here and it says in the song, offer themselves on the altar of acid. So they'd ruin their lives with drugs, which you can say John later did himself. Again, it's a subversive song to be putting this on a Mamas and Papas album in 66, which was their biggest year. I Can't Wait is good. Even If I Could is good. That Kind of Girl and Once Was a Time, I thought it was an excellent way to end the album. So I think this is one of their stronger albums. This is the album that they made with Jan of Jan and Dean's girlfriend, Jill, I can't remember her last name. And then because they had kicked out Michelle for having an affair with Gene Clark. You know, this is after she had one with Gene Clark of the Byrds. This is after she had one with Denny. So, you know, Michelle, quite the little sexual proclivist. Is that even a word, proclivist, in those days? But then they pull her back in right as the album was being finished. And so there's a big controversy as to which of the vocals are Michelle's, is it Gibson, Jill Gibson? Which of the vocals are Jill's? I've heard Jill talk about this online. She definitely claims she's on the album. Michelle claims to not really know. I guess their voices are pretty similar. They're in the high register to where, you know, you can see which side of the debate that you're on, but they had album covers made with Jill on the cover. It wasn't going to be this cover to the last minute. But it's still, despite the fractious nature of the sessions, I think it's still a great album. Okay. The third album I don't have a regular CD of. I can show you how I have it in a couple ways. It's called Deliver. This is something that somebody made me the Mamas and Papas, the Mono collection, which is the first 3 albums. Yeah, in mono. The 4th album never had a mono mix, and then some of the singles. Here's the leaf. All the leaves are brown. The Golden Era collection, which definitely has the album. You know what? I'll bet you this does not have the album cover. Nice pictures of them though. It's very difficult to find Mamas and Papas posters, psychedelic posters from this era. I've got the Monterey Pop poster behind me. That's a first edition. Which of course John and Michelle were major contributors to the development of that concert. And no, this does not have a picture of, oh yes, well, it has a picture of all 4. That's Deliver. That's them in the pool. This is their most underrated album, I think. It's solid. If the second one isn't quite as good as the first, the third one isn't quite as good as the second, but it's still solid. I mean, in '67, they were still kind of kings of the folk rock heap. Deliver has Sing for Your Supper, which I love. A cover version of Twist and Shout, the old R&B tune from the early 60s that the Isley Brothers had the big hit with, but they weren't the first to do it. Free Advice, which is good, not the Great Society song. Look Through My Window, which was a hit. A nice, beautiful folk rock hit. Boys and Girls Together, that's Mamas and Papas. That's Fleetwood Mac, too. String Man is good. Frustration. Did You Ever Want to Cry? It's one of their unsung great ones. John's Music Box, which is a instrumental. And then after that, they put on Glad to Be Unhappy, which was a top 40 hit, not on any of their non-compilation albums. Glad to Be Unhappy. So it's all on. All the Leaves Are Grass, which gives you stereo mixes of the first 4 albums. All right. Now, I guess I might as well discuss the 4th one too, because I don't have a regular CD of that. 4th one's called the Papas and the Mamas. It came out in 1968. I'll show you the album cover in a second. They're kind of rich, satisfied rock stars by then. They're kind of not getting along. The bloom is off, the rose, so to speak. They've already kind of done what they set out to do. They never paid their dues. They were instantly successful here. And so they never had to play clubs or anything. They barely even toured. They did tour, but they'd rather be in their mansions in LA doing their drugs and whatever, which they wrote about. They were honest about that. Safe in My Garden is a song just like that, and that's kind of the theme of it too. Meditation Mama, Transcendental Woman Travels. The Love of Ivy is good. Dream a Little Dream of Me, which is a Cass solo number, which kicked off her solo career, which I'll get to in a second. One of their last hits too. Mansions, again, it's like Safe in Their Garden. Gemini Child. Nothing's Too Good for My Little Girl, that's an undersung one. Too Late. 12:30, Young Girls Are Coming to the Canyon, which is one of their big numbers. One of their great numbers too. Rooms and Midnight Voyage ends their career. Then mono single versions of I Saw Her Again, Words of Love, and Creaky Alley. Why did I mention Creaky Alley? Wasn't that on their 3rd album? I think I missed mentioning that song. Anyways, Papas and the Mamas, perhaps their least great of the 4 albums here, but I like them all. If that's a 5, you see that little covering the toilet? That's the one we had. That's the LP we had in the 70s or late 60s. If that's a 5-star album, this is 4.5. I still say this is 4.5 too. It's close enough. That's at least a 4. There are no bad songs on there. I like them all. Okay, before I leave Mamas and Papas in the 60s, I want to show you their complete singles. This is the ultimate way to have their hits. Forget any other hits collection. These are the 45 mixes, the 50th anniversary collection. Looks like that, folks. It's 2 discs. These are the 45 single mixes, almost all in mono, as they appeared on 45 vinyl at the time. And there are differences between, the 45 mixes sometimes, not all the time, and the mono LP mixes. So that's what it's called. That's what I recommend. Okay, I have another big Mamas and Papas box set. I say another because I'm not even showing you. It's not All the Leaves Are Brown. It's kind of like, one of those longer ones. It had their 5th album, People Like Us. It's somewhere here. I spent 10 minutes looking for it today. Couldn't find it. So what I did was I just went online and I went to Discogs and I just printed it out. I didn't bother to burn the CDR because I've got it on that box set, but it's called People Like Us. Came out in 1971. I know that there are fans of this album, but I'm not one of them. It didn't have a top 40 hit. And what's a Mamas and Papas album without a top 40 hit? It was just a pure contractual obligation album made because, they owed Dunhill, another LP. John had already started his solo career. Cass was well into her solo career by this point. It's not that good. So I don't recommend it. I'm not going to go over the songs. Mama Cass, briefly. I didn't realize, I also today Xeroxed off, because I don't have it, see, no CDR, her first album, Dream Will Dream of Me. Now, I've heard it. It's good for her, It's not a great album, but it's good. This album came out in 1968. It's still, even though she wanted to be, known as Cass Elliot, it still says Mama Cass, which, Dunhill, this is also on Dunhill, wanted to, capitalize on that so people knew who she was. It has a very eclectic mix of material on here from people that she knew. She didn't write anything. There is a Graham Nash song on here because he had just come to the States. She's one of the ones who introduced him to Stephen Stills and David Crosby. There's a band song on here because the producer, I think, had produced the band. It's called Blues for Breakfast, and it was eventually released on the 1975 Basement Tapes double LP. There's the moderate hit California Earthquake. So I've never heard another Mama Cass album. Her stuff's not easy to find on CD. You're gonna pay for it. She's never had a reissue campaign on CD here in America. You can get like Japanese versions, and you know what, folks? That's what I did today. I ordered this because I want to have it in my collection. It's a Japanese, one of those SHM, I think, CDs that I paid too much money for, and now I'm kicking myself because I remember when Hippo Select, about 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, wow, did her first 2 albums. They called it the Complete Cass Elliot, 68 to 71. It's her first 2 albums. It's this and her next album, which I can't remember the title of, and then like singles from that era. And it immediately went out of print, or it did sometime later. Now, Discogs didn't even have it. I don't think I saw it on eBay either. So that's what I should have bought, but instead, today I ordered this on Japanese CD. It's, I'm sure, her best album, but she made like 4 other ones, then one with Dave Mason before she died in 74. Okay, John had his career wasn't that much better than Cass Elliott's, but he does have what I think is a great album. It's either called John Phillips or Wolf King of LA, whatever you want to call it. This is, from his, look how skinny his legs are. This is like my legs. From his, post Mamas and Papas hippie junkie, or maybe he wasn't a junkie by this time, days. I like all these songs. April Land, Pega Canyon, Malibu People, Someone Sleeping, Drum, Captain, which is the mermaid. Let It Bleed, Genevieve, more about her in a second. Down the Beach, Mississippi, Holland Tunnel, and then the bonus tracks are pretty good too. And he had a top 40 single with Mississippi, which even Elvis liked. Yeah, John hung out with Elvis, if you're to believe his autobiography. All right. He also did later on Pay Pack and Follow. This was never released as an album, but the sessions. This is mostly him and Keith Richards. You know, John was a friend of Keith's, hung out with the Stones. It's an average song. I mean, you can see why this stuff wasn't released at the time. Before he died, there's Phillips 66, which is this is the least of the three. Although I think this has Me and My Uncle, right? Yeah, it does. Me and My Uncle is a great John Phillips song he wrote sometime in the 60s, which for some reason the Mamas and Papas never recorded. I guess it wasn't really a harmony number. If the Grateful Dead did it live, they never did a studio version that I know of. Their whole career, and it's great, and other people have covered it too. It's called Me and My Uncle, one of John Phillips' better numbers, and he didn't record it until this album, before he died. Okay, there's other John Phillips stuff, but I don't have it. He wrote music for plays too. Genevieve Waite, his wife after Michelle was Genevieve Waite. This album, Romance is on the Rise. I'll tell you how I know about it. I have talked to you guys before about and this is the first time I'm going to show what it looks like, the Paul Gambaccini Rock Critics' Choice Top 200 Albums book. It's an interesting book where he polled all these rock critics, which at the end of the book, he gives you the names, their pictures, and he even gives you the lists that they submitted. And you can see how he compiled this book. Anyway, the first Mamas and Papas album is in here. The Wolf King of L.A. album is in here. And Genevieve Waite's Romance is on the Rise album is on there too. It is not that good. It's certainly not as good as any Mamas and Papas album from the 60s. And besides the first one, they're not in there either. So I don't know much to say about this. Apparently they played this in New York in certain clubs. And when the book was being compiled in the late 70s, possibly it was still popular. It came out in 74. The book came out in 78. Anyways, I waited a long time to hear this, and when it finally came out on CD, I bought it, and I was less than enthralled. So if you like it, good for you. That's it. That's all I got to show you guys. Wow, 22 minutes. So yeah, Mamas and Papas. I don't have much to say about his daughter, Mackenzie, her revelation that they had a long-term affair. I mean, I don't know. I don't doubt her, although family members, I think Michelle said that she didn't believe that. But I don't understand what Michelle gains by revealing that. But anyways, that's the only thing which taints his legacy. I think John Phillips was a great songwriter. I often compare him to John Sebastian and the Mamas and Papas to the Lovin' Spoonful. Both bands were originally, in New York. The Spoonful, of course, stayed there. Mamas and Papas made that trip to the West and epitomized California, or at least Los Angeles, for the rest of the 60s. Both bands, the Mamas and Papas and the Spoonful, had about the same number of hits. Sebastian definitely had a better solo career in the 70s because he just released a lot of albums, which I showed you if you watch my Lovin' Spoonful video. But in the end, if you put a gun to my head, I might choose the Mamas and Papas simply because I'm a Californian. Because both songwriters were about the same in terms of the Battle of the Johns. Hell, if I want to include John Fogerty in there, he wrote better songs than both of them. So, anyways, this is Matt signing off. Another 60s folk rock band for you. Until next time.